Okay, so this is the November 15th meeting of the Board of Selectmen. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, this meeting will be conducted via remote means. The information for joining via Zoom or via phone has been posted on our agenda, which is posted in the townhouse and also on the town's website. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we're unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the town's website, town.plimpton.ma.us, an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website. This recording is not to be considered an official public document. First item is in open session is going to be update from Highway Department regarding the transfer station sticker policy and examination of pay per bag options. But we've got some people here that don't typically join us. So can we go around and introduce ourselves so we know who's on the call? So I'll start. I'm Christine Joy, Board of Selectmen.
John Trainer, Board of Selectmen.
Mark Russo, Board of Selectmen.
Liz Dennehy, Town Administrator.
Rob Farlott, Highway Superintendent.
Todd
Colleen.
Kep, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
All right, Todd Kep from Mass DEP.
Colleen Moran, Highway Department.
Art Moran, Transfer Station.
Harry Weichel, Transfer Station.
Bree, are you on here too?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I thought that I saw your number. Okay, all right, very good. All right, so Rob, did you want to take the lead with this, or did the Board of Health want to take the lead on this discussion?
Well, Christine, it's Colleen.
Hi, Colleen.
I just wanted to tell you that after dealing with a lot of the different towns and getting information from the different towns, South Shore, I got through the town of Duxbury, I got South Shore Recycling Cooperative, who led me to Todd, who was on this phone call. Todd has been extremely informative, has gone over to the transfer station, and I'm going to let him take it from here if that's all right with you.
That's perfect. Okay, Todd.
All right, well, first of all, thank you for having me. I appreciate the invite. I did go over to, actually, I'll fill you in a little bit about me. I'm what's called a Municipal Assistance Coordinator, and I am paid through the DEP to help support 31 municipalities in my district, which is Southeast District 3. And it's with basically the Muni Solid Waste and Recycling branch. So if there's stuff that comes with, technical assistance grants or just grants that will give you money for doing what you're supposed to be doing and doing what you're already doing, that's my realm. So I'm more than happy to help you guys out with anything that you need. And I appreciate the phone call from Colleen and the meeting with both Art and I forgot the other one's name there, but Rob. Yeah, it was a great meeting over there at the transfer station. I was actually seriously impressed with it. So you guys did a fantastic job putting that thing together. Great flow. It's easy to use, very user-friendly, and it's set up really well in the event that you would want to do a pay-as-you-throw program, which is pretty much why you guys invited me here, is to talk a little bit about that. Pay-as-you-throw is Mass DEP's #1 priority when it comes to waste reduction across the state. It falls in line perfectly with our solid waste master plan for 2020 through 2030 and then beyond. Immediately when you start implementing a pay-as-you-throw program, you can pretty much shave off 40% of your disposal costs for the trash right away from day one. It's almost immediate. Another benefit to pay-as-you-throw is it evens the playing field for everybody, which means whatever you generate, that's what you're paying for. And right now what you have is you've got a system there, from my understanding, that you've got a person paying for a sticker. And if they throw one bag a week away, and then you got another person that's coming in with a truckload of stuff twice a day, that person throwing one bag is subsidizing the trash for that individual that's throwing a lot of stuff. So this is why I'm saying it evens out the playing field. So whatever you're generating and throwing away, that's what you pay for. That's what that bag cost incorporates. These programs have been highly successful across the state, highly. And it's helping not only you guys curb your cost as far as disposal goes and getting more stuff into recycling, but it helps the state in general with the disposal goals that we're trying to meet by 2050, actually 2030 and beyond to 2050. So we've got some pretty hefty goals we got to meet. You know, we really appreciate talks like this with the select boards and Board of Health and all that kind of stuff, because it really does help allow us to discuss the benefits to pay as you throw. Just doing some rough numbers a little bit earlier today in the talks with Colleen about this stuff. It looks like you've sold about 836 stickers this last year. You've got approximately 1,000 households within Plimpton. And I figured there's about, maybe a 10% of the population there, or 10% of your sticker sales is probably the first sticker. And then 90% is the first sticker, 10% is probably a second sticker. If you were to proceed with this, the way that DEP likes to do that is you would start out with a technical assistance grant. And I can definitely walk Colleen and Art through the process. It's really simple. It's a couple of questions. Did you talk to your MAC, which is me? Yes, we've been meeting about it. And then what that does is that basically puts it dedicates my time to the town of Plimpton to help you guys out with this. Doesn't mean you have to go that route, because pay as you throw is not something that's going to happen overnight. It takes time. And it also, we're going to have a lot of questions and a lot of answers for people that are hesitant or don't like it because they have to pay for a bag. Well, they're paying for a bag anyway, but now they're paying for their trash that's in the bag, and they're not paying for someone else if they're not generating that much. So these are all things that need to get out to the general public so they understand the program and how it works. A lot of the misconceptions is, it's a tax. It's not a tax. You're paying for what you generate, which is what you should be doing already. The more you buy and the more you put in the trash, you should cover those costs. It's a basic cost. It's not fair to have the town take care of those costs, or your neighbors or people down the street. It's just not fair on that individual that's not generating that much. So anyway, what I've come up with is going through that TA program. It doesn't cost the town any money whatsoever. It dedicates my time to do all the research, help you out with the education process, and start to get those things in line. Like I said, it's not a quick process. This is not going to happen overnight. We're talking probably 12 to 18 months to get this thing done, and to do a really good rollout as well. So what I figure is, if we do the TA grant, and then all of a sudden you go into actually filling out for the grant to help cover the cost, it's about $10 per household that's participating that you would get back in the form of grants. And at 752 stickers would be the primary, that's the household served. You're looking at about $7,500 to help cover the costs of buying bags, do the rollout, all that stuff that the town would normally have to incur the cost on. DEP helps cover a lot of that cost. And so I think that's important to mention. The other part of that is there's also some other grants that I'll work with Colleen on that we could get you a potential of pretty darn close to $5,000 a year that could be helped. It could be used towards enhancing your program at your transfer station, outreach, education. It could help cover costs of new equipment. There's a lot of stuff. And the only thing it really costs you is just time to fill out the application and do the reporting and stuff. But you're looking at a couple hours worth of work to get that $5,000. So it's a pretty cool program. It's called SMRP, or Sustainable Materials. And then the portion of the grant where we give you the guys the money is Recycling Dividends Program, RDP. So that's my joy in life, is doing RDP for everybody, because we just awarded all the money today. I'm happy to say that we were very close to not breaking last year's record, but we did. We beat it by a couple thousand, so which is good. And it's a good, robust program. So, I didn't come with the intention of answering too many questions tonight. It was more of an information, just kind of help you understand my role in the process, what that process looks like, and then what kind of grants we offer as well. But if you do have some questions, I'm open to answering them the best I can. So.
John or Mark, do you have any questions for Todd?
Were the decision made to move forward? What are the next steps?
The next steps would be I would get with Colleen and have her fill out the technical assistance grant so I can get the time dedicated to you guys to help basically work the plan. You know, we're going to work the plan. We're going to start educating, you know, and go through the whole process. This is, it's not something that's going to happen overnight. This is a long-term thing that we're looking at. So,
And at that point, even starting in, is the decision then already made that we are switching to this?
No, that's not the decision. So what we're going to do is we're kind of going to go into an exploratory phase where I will help out with, you know, figuring out what the costs are going to be that need to be incurred to cover the program, right? And then we need to educate the public. And then I'm not sure, you know, exactly, this is really the first meeting I've had with you guys, and I've been here for 6 years. So I'm very excited about this because you're one of my towns, and I work right out of Halifax. So I'm your neighbor there when it comes to work. DEP rents me an office at the recycling center. And I know some of you new here probably know Sue over there, Sue Johnston. But so this is pretty exciting that you guys reached out to me. I've been working on this for quite a few years, but like I said, the process it's not a quick thing. It's a long-term process. Some towns have to go to you know, town meeting with this. Others, they just pass it. Like in the case of Wareham, which just did this last year. I'm sorry, it was December of last year, the prior year. Their host agreement with the disposal site, CMAS, actually was done in December of 2019. So, I'm sorry, December of 20. So they had to come up with something quick. So they did some curbside stuff. And then for the transfer station, they went pay as you throw. And the town administrator basically told the board, we're doing this because we have to. This is the only way we can afford to keep it open, is to have people cover the cost of the material they're bringing in. They had the same issue. They had people with big trucks coming in multiple times a day, dumping stuff. And they found out that because the disposal costs would have gone from, you know, $0 per ton, they weren't paying a dime, to pretty close to $85 a ton. That's a large amount of money that they're going to have to find somewhere else to cover those costs. And what they came up with my help and through many years of going through this stuff was, if we can cover the cost of disposal through the bag, which should be somewhere between, you know, I think in their case, we came up with $1.25 and they raised it to about $1.30 to help cover some of the recycling costs. At that point, recycling was high. Now it's come back down, and there's people that are actually making money with it, which is great. And they have a sticker cost of right around, I think it was like I came up with $119 or $118 for the sticker cost. That was the yearly cost. And they raised that up to about $130 just to help cover just any unforeseen costs that come up. And they made it work. And as far as, you know, the last thing I heard was a couple months ago, and everybody was okay with it. You know, they got used to it. It's, you know, yeah, the people are going to grumble at first because nobody really likes change. That's the biggest thing. Nobody likes to be told what to do and how to do it. But in this case, in this day and age where we have pretty good goals that we got to meet, we have to do stuff to better the environment. And we should, as people and individuals and citizens, should be covering the cost of what we buy. That shouldn't go back on anybody else. And I'm a firm believer in, I live in Barnstable County. If we had pay as you throw, I'd be more than happy to cover the cost of my disposal. But because I don't throw away that much stuff, I'm covering other people's trash bill. And I'm not a huge fan of that. I don't think I should have to cover someone else's. I'm more than happy to cover mine, but you bought it, you throw it out, you pay for it. So,
So last question for me, are there any towns that have instituted this program and then found it was so unpopular they backed out of it?
Not in my district, and I'm not sure about the rest of the state. So I've got 31 municipalities, and everyone that's put it into effect has stuck with it. One thing that's interesting is in the case of Brockton, they're curbside. I know they're not drop off, but in their case, they went from basically unlimited trash to one 64-gallon toter of trash. I'm sorry, no, they went with a 35. They went with the smallest possible container for trash. And then anything extra is pay as you throw. So they have this hybrid program, which is really interesting, and it's helped bring their disposal. And I wish I had the map on me right now, but we have this thing called the Map of Pride, which shows average, basically it's pounds per household of trash per year. And Brockton used to be in the red on the map. In this last year, I believe they were in the like a lighter shade of yellow, almost in green. So they managed to bring their trash down so much. It was like, it went from, I don't know, like 2,600 pounds per resident or per household down to something that was crazy. It was like 1,100 pounds. So they've really managed to bring that tonnage down quite a bit.
So forgive me, that's actually a little intriguing. I have a lot of towns done this hybrid thing.
There are a few. Norwell does that. So they've got a 35 gallon with pay-as-you-throw for the extras. Halifax, we were talking about it because I was actually in the process of writing a big RFP for them. And one of the thoughts was, let's do a 35 gallon toter for curbside and then keep the pay-as-you-throw program. Halifax was one of the first towns in the state to incorporate pay-as-you-throw back in, I think it was like 86, 87, 88. So they were one of the first adopters of that. And the big thing was they were talking about getting rid of it. And I was just like, I don't think that's a good idea. You know, your disposal costs are going to go way up because of that. And they're way in the green on that map of Pride. I mean, they're down to, at last count, I think it was like 350 pounds per household. They weren't even at 1,000. They weren't even close to 1,000. So they've managed to take that swing and try to better the environment. And it's also helped curb their cost of disposal. So their disposal bills are down quite a bit. So.
Thank you, Todd. John, do you have questions?
I do have questions. I think some of them are ones that need to be just ironed out as we go. I'm not for, I'm not against yet. I do want to make sure that the residents really have a lot of input into this, because the little bit of feedback I've got from about 5 or 6 residents has all been negative. You know, don't do it. And then the other thing I'd like to know is, why do we, you know, in our town, everything is brought to the dump by the residents, pretty much. Yet the bag price in other towns reflects the cost of collection, which I assume is a big part of the cost of the bags. Correct. And I hear a lot of sort of rumbling around Halifax that the bags are too expensive and they're too thin. It may just be, you know, a small core people. But one of the things I'd like to, if we were to go this way, why couldn't we just make the stickers free and put the cost in the bag? And so I think those things like that are things we need to think about. But I really don't want to get ahead of the residents having the opportunity to input to this and make sure that we, as we work through it, whatever the decision is, that we feel comfortable at the end that they were heard.
Okay. I definitely hear you on that. And I can explain to you why some of the prices of the bags are higher than others. And you actually nailed it right on the head. And what that is in Halifax, they have a very low sticker fee. And the sticker fee allows them access into their drop-off, their recycling center. It also allows beach access. And it also allows for curbside pickup of their recycling through the town. The town does that themselves. When it comes to their trash, what they've done, instead of doing a higher sticker price, so like in the case of Wareham, where they've got $130 sticker, I'm sorry, and the bags are $1, I think right around it, actually, they might be $1. We started at $1.25. I think they might have brought them down to $1 last time I talked to Derek Sullivan down there. And that's because they buried the cost to run the program with all with the hauling into that sticker price. The reason the bags are low is because it's only covering the cost of disposal. So if you guys are going to CMAS, you're covering that cost just to drop it at CMAS, just for CMAS to burn it, really, is what you're covering that cost. In Halifax case, they opted to do a lower sticker because it was tied with some other items and do a higher bag fee, which does cover the cost of hauling, which is a big part because they're doing curbside. So they cover the cost of the hauling in the bag and the cost of disposal. And that's why it's a little bit higher. So yes, but there's, once again, you're a drop off. So your hauling fees are going to be a lot less than them because they've got a truck in town 3 days a week going down every single street because it's an opt-in program. So with your case, the residents are bringing it to you. The truck is only going to your location and you know exactly what the time and the mileage is from your transfer station to its final destination down at CMAS. And so that's an easy cost to figure out. And I could figure that out in about 5 seconds. So once I get the numbers and I start analyzing this, I think you're going to be surprised at what little cost there is in the bags. And the other question you had, which is very, very important to answer, is the bags tear easily. And they do, and there's a reason for it. So the bags, you're paying for weight because everything at CMAS gets weighed and it's all priced per ton, right? So if it's 85 a ton, you break that down to how many cents it is per pound. You know, off the top of my head, I'd have to calculate it real quick. It's no more than, I don't know, probably 28 cents a ton, or 28 cents a pound to get rid of it. When you start adding that into the cost of the bag, and you say, well, it's probably a lot less than that. It's probably more like 2 cents a pound, really. The bags are weighted to break and to tear open at whatever weight limit you want to be able to put it in there. So most of the bags are set at 25 pounds. So if you put 25 pounds in a bag and lift it up, it's going to tear because that's what you're paying for, 25 pounds of trash in that bag. And plastic bags, they're not the Glad hefty ones that, you know, they can take 100 pounds and not break. They just stretch. These bags are meant to break because you don't want people putting more weight in that bin and in that plastic bag, because ultimately now the town is on the hook to pay for their trash. And you're putting the onus back on the resident. So that's the whole goal of those bags. And so when people say, oh, they break too easily, well, don't put that much weight in them because they're not meant for that. So to cover your trash, you're going to need a second bag.
Anecdotally, we've heard of when you do this, it increases trash that ends up in the woods. Do you have any comments around that?
I was looking a bunch of stuff up, and what I've found, so Mass DEP has got a really nice slideshow that's up on their website about they have a whole pay as you throw section, which is great. I would highly encourage all of you, if you're really interested in this stuff, do a Google search, you know, Yahoo, whatever it is that you use, but do a search for Mass DEP and then pay as you throw, or PAYT. And you'll come right to the page. There's a lot of information on there that you can download and look at. There's stats, there's just all kinds of research on there. So the slide I'm looking at about illegal dumping. Now, most of those goods that are illegally dumped are going to be white goods, TVs, construction demolition, tires, and yard waste. That's all stuff that can't go in those bags anyway. They don't go in there. You need separate places to get rid of that. And I believe most of that stuff, if not all, are probably collected at the transfer station, if I'm correct, right? So they're going there. Yeah, and there's probably I'm sorry, go ahead.
Not construction debris.
I thought you had a bin over there for like bulky items and not like traditional.
We do, but not construction debris.
Okay. Let's forget that for a second then. We'll just talk about white goods, TVs, tires, and yard waste. I believe you guys are collecting white goods and TVs and maybe tires. I don't know. Tires are, you know, most people do.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So that stuff's already being handled. Some of the reports, well, all the statistics that we have in doing this, now there's about 183 municipalities or so, 185 or so across the state that are pay-as-you-throw munis. So one of the studies that was done indicates that a majority of the dumping that's been done illegal is commercial. It's not residential. And it's likely not to be linked to pay-as-you-throw, is what the studies have shown. Another comment here was reports from pay-as-you-throw municipalities indicate that the majority do not experience an increase in dumping with implementation or illegal dumping. They probably left that out. So it's one of those concerns that people always have, but you know, everything I've seen, it doesn't lead to an increase in that. If people are illegal dumping, they're going to do it anyway. They just don't want to buy a sticker. And the other part of this is if that does start occurring, which it probably already is happening, the key is to have regulations, act promptly, and impose fines. And that's really how you try to curb that. Most places, I had so about once a month, I do a little thing I call open office hours, and it's all on Zoom because we're not allowed to go back to the office yet. Hopefully one day I will be able to get back there. And I did this to utilize the Zoom technology platform to get my municipalities to start talking to each other in an open format. It's not recorded. I'm not taking notes. It's just it's a way of munis to communicate on various topics that, either I choose or that are submitted to me. And I did one on illegal dumping about, I want to say, actually I did two, one last October and then one in, I think it was December again or January. And it was one of those topics that people really got into because it's one of those things that's happening regardless of the program that they have. And Hingham had jumped on that phone call, and I had Hingham, I had a number of towns. I had, let's see, Braintree, Pembroke, East Bridgewater, the SSRC, so Claire was on there, and she had a couple munis that had joined in. We were talking about this illegal dumping issue that's going on, and it's Rockland was there. Rockland's having a big problem with it right now, but it has nothing to do with that. It's more, it's construction demolition debris, and they're hiding it in different spots. Well, in Hingham, they had one of the examples, and this is really funny. They had someone dumped a commercial dock at one of their public parking lots right next to the dumpster that was there. It was obviously too big to fit in the dumpster, and I think they tried to cram it in there. It didn't work, so they left it there. That was one of the big things. And so they said, well, what are people doing to curb that? And there's a lot of different things you can do. One of my munis was using Facebook as an avenue to help curb that. And what they found is that if they posted pictures of where it was and what it was, they were getting tips, because people would say, you know what, I remember someone driving down that road, and then they would check their cameras, because everyone's got cameras on their homes nowadays, and they were able to link the illegal dumping with people that were dumping it. It was amazing how many people they actually caught and fined. The other thing is increased police patrols in the high activity areas where there is a lot of illegal dumping. Just have them drive through there. Ask them to drive through there once a day, twice a day. The times that, the night times when people are usually active illegally dumping. I can tell you, after the big storm we had here on the Cape 2 weeks ago, someone illegally dumped like a 35-foot trailer at the end of my street. It was just parked there for a week and a half. That's nothing that would fit in a bag. So I think it's one of those things that we can look at. We can definitely discuss in more detail. And I can actually, what I'll do is, if it's one of the major concerns that does come up, I can get some of the other municipalities that do have pay-as-you-throw programs that have had them for a long time, and what they experienced when they incorporated the program and how they dealt with any potential illegal dumping problems. And I think that would probably be a good discussion to have. So.
Mm-hmm. John, do you have any more questions for Todd?
No, I'll turn it back to you, Christy.
Okay, my question, I mean, you guys have had some really good questions. Just talk to me a little bit about how you engage residents in this process.
So engaging them, we want to use social media. We want to use, I would probably choose a format. I know you guys are on Zoom right now in your meetings. I would opt to, and I've got a Zoom account that the state pays for. We could do Zoom chats. We could do nightly chats. You could do stuff at the library, and we could set this up where the residents can come in and just ask us questions, because that's the best way to calm them down if they've got issues. And there is, they have legitimate concerns. I'm not saying these things are not legitimate. People are really scared of change, and they're scared of someone saying, you're gonna have to pay, $1.25 for this bag when I can get it for 10 cents at the supermarket. But there's a reason for that. That's something that's never, ever gets mentioned. I'm sure in the comments that you either saw or were handed, they were unaware of the situation and why those prices were the way they are, or why those bags tore open, because there are legitimate reasons why that happens. And I've always found that once you talk to these people about that and let them know what happens, then it starts to spread kind of naturally through their circle, and they kind of influence those decisions. And it's like, well, there's a reason why that happens, Bob. It's because they're rated at 30 pounds or less. And if you're going to put more in there, well, you're not paying for that. So, it's one of those things, and there's any number of ways we can get information out. We could do flyers. We could do, I don't know if you guys have a public access channel there, or if you share one with another town, we could do that. We could do shows on this. And I can tell you, we did some really neat stuff down in Mattapoisett using their public access TV on information about a Recycling IQ Kit program that we ran down there, because the residents were like, oh no, the trash cops are here. And it's like, no, hold on. We're not necessarily trash cops. We're helping improve the stream. And we're doing that through getting the information out. And we thought one of the best ways to do that was through the public access channels, because, you know, not everybody watches it, but you can also take that and you can put it on YouTube, you can put it on Facebook, you can put it anywhere you want, and then you're going to get more information out there to a bigger mass of people.
So Todd, are you using all these different channels throughout the whole process?
I would definitely do it. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
So the last one of these programs we did was, like I said, it was in Wareham, and it was before COVID. So COVID kind of changed everything, and it changed how we actually operate and do business and do meetings. And we've shifted to online platforms to do all of our meetings, and we're actually finding higher viewership and higher attendance to our meetings, which is really cool. So we've broken some records through DEP getting this information out to just, you know, the municipalities, general public, and other agencies around the country.
Great, thanks, Todd. All right, anybody else on the call have a question for Todd before we let him go?
Christine?
Yep, go ahead, Art.
This is Art. And I just have a couple of facts that I'd like to toss out. We have a new contract with Waste Management, or we did, I believe it was last year, and they went up 25% in the cost of disposal. We're now paying $97.52 a ton to get rid of our trash. So if we, basically this program looks to encourage recycling. In other words, get the cardboard, the paper, the cans, and everything else out of the waste stream and into the recycle. And thereby we lower the weight of what we generate. We had been shipping our trash to CMAS, but now it goes to the Middleborough landfill. And Todd could correct me here, but I believe it was either Taunton or Raynham's landfill is now closed. And I think that was closed this past April. It's full. There's no more room. So we are running out of space to get rid of this. And in addition to the tonnage, I mean, we pay $290 a month for container charges for all of the containers. So it's not cheap to get rid of all of this. And if we could get the residents to recycle everything, and we've done a fair job. I know I gave Todd a copy of our trifold recycling brochure, but you know, when we mention it to people, you could throw that cardboard, you know, over there. Nah, I'm going to put it here. You know, for whatever reason, some people don't want to do it. The other thing is there are residents that come in with a dump truck and they're cleaning out a house. Well, you know, they have a sticker and it's not construction debris, so we can't stop it. But they purchased another property, or there's a senior that owns a house and it's got an in-law, and there might be 6, 7, 8 cars in the yard, and they're paying $100 for a sticker, but yet there's an F2, you know, a pickup truck that comes in at least once a week, maybe twice a week, and with a truckload, and the rest of the people are paying for it. And then there's more than that. You know, come spend some time at the transfer station and you'll see what's going on. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you, Art. All right, anyone else?
Christine, if I can, I just had one question that occurred to me, because actually to bring a piece of it up. What do you do in this types of programs with a piece of styrofoam that comes out of like a new TV box that clearly isn't going to fit in the bag? I mean, how do you handle some of those weird things?
So the best advice I can give you for that is break it down. So I can tell you from experience over in Halifax, what they do is they actually charge the residents when they drop it off, because they have an avenue to get it recycled. It's time consuming. And there is one location, it is in Bridgewater. It's called Insulation Technologies, that will take the styrofoam and get it recycled. Nice company. I actually did some grant writing for them a while back to help them out, see if they can get a new styrofoam recycling machine. And so what they do in the case of Halifax is when people bring it in, what they do is they basically look at it and they'll charge them anywhere between $1 to $5. It's really not, it's not a whole lot. And so less material, it's a little bit less money. The problem is now the attendant has to take that material, and you know, I mean, the TV stuff is big, right? And it's thick, and it's hard to break. So he actually has a knife. He's getting a hot. Yeah, I think he probably has a hot knife now, and he slices through it. And so what they have is they'll sell bags too. So they sell, I think it's about a 30-gallon bag. It's not a pay-as-you-throw bag. It's just a regular old, you know, cellophane plastic bag, and you know, they'll give it to him for $1, fill it up for $1. When they bring it in, that dollar helps cover the cost of the attendant spending his time doing that. But what he does is he cuts it down to smaller pieces and puts it into 64-gallon bags. These things are huge. They line the wall. When they get to about 38 bags, that's when they borrow a highway truck and they bring it to Installation Technologies down the street. So they've actually made a pretty big investment in that, just in staff time, in you know, equipment time to cut it. And you know, the knife's not that much. I mean, it was like $50 for the hot knife, but it works well, and they're doing it and they're getting credit for it. You know, it's a really nice program, but you have to have the space for it too. But in the meantime, that's recognized as trash right now, which is unfortunate. So.
Well, I think it's just important if we go down this route and design a program, that we have all the various opportunities for people to be aware of. You know, I mean, it's not that often that a new TV or monitor shows up, but when it does, there's a whole bunch of waste that you just can't sort. And especially in the economy now, where so much more stuff is coming, you know, in via UPS or FedEx or whatever. And so there's just so much more packaging with that.
Very true.
The only other thing I would just throw out there that we probably will need to think about is, you know, as we get the information out there about what the program could be, we probably need to understand, in order to be able to get the right math of how everything's going to sort out, as to how many people will move to, you know, private pickup, because we have actually a fair number of people in town that do, more people than I would think, that do private pickup for their trash, because some of this is just, it's just going to be an aggravation factor. And, you know, if we don't have a decent understanding of that, then we could get our numbers wrong as we're figuring out how much we think we're getting and how you're doing that pay. So I just tossed that up.
Yeah, that's true. We got to make sure our numbers are good. So.
All right. Thanks, John. Good points. All right. So do you need any action from this board tonight?
Me?
Colleen, Rob, do we need to vote to, you know, authorize you to sign a technical assistance grant to pursue the examination of this paper bag option?
Todd, are you going to need anything like that?
No, it could be anyone from the town. I think what's going to happen is we have to designate one individual for Plimpton as the person that's going to have access into ReTrack, which is our program that you'll file for the technical assistance, the grants, and do all the reporting. And there's probably going to be Colleen, because I think she has all the numbers. So it's probably going to be her. But it's one of those things where, you know, I will work with her very closely on this. I've trained a number of people, and you know, with any municipality, there's always a lot of turnover. So I've trained probably a good 15 different people over the last, you know, year and a half, just during COVID. And so what we'll do is we'll get together, we'll do a Zoom call, and I will walk you through everything, so you've got a good understanding of it. And then when it comes down to the day that we're going to fill it out, I will be with you on that call so we can do it correctly.
And we've got
I'd like to see that somehow we have a little committee put together that I want to make sure the town administrator is, I don't expect town administrator to do the work. Colleen's the right person, but I do want to make sure that we touch on it at certain points and just make sure where we are in the process.
Yep, absolutely. And ultimately the signer of this would probably either be the chair of the select board or the town administrator. So those would be the signers. So they would have to know at some point.
We're not going to go forward with this, though, unless the board decides they want to go pay by the bag.
No. I assume to go through a process to see whether it makes sense. But if it doesn't make sense, I certainly won't be voting for it.
But I think the grant is after we see if it makes sense.
That wasn't my understanding of what Todd said.
No, there's technical assistance. to fund the process of sorting things out and examining whether or not this is feasible and workable. Is that correct, Todd?
The technical assistance is dedicated time for me to work with you guys on exploring the possibility of, you know, what it would take to go pay as you throw. It has nothing to do with the actual grant that's going to pay you for the initial startup funds.
Okay, that's the grant I was thinking of.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
that's
different. There's another grant that I was thinking of that will pay to get us up and running if we decide to go that process. That's the one I was thinking of, Christine.
Okay, so, got it. Thanks, Colleen.
Just real quick to answer that question too, is there's a kind of a schedule that we have to follow. So the first thing would be the technical assistance grant. When we get to that point where everybody's in agreement, this is the way we want to go, then we would file for the actual the money grant for pay as you throw that would help with those startup costs. And then even outside of that, there's another program which is RDP, or recycling dividends. That basically for what you're doing right now. And what I've come up with is, just real quick, the rough numbers I've come up with what you guys are doing now is, you know, you're looking at between 7 and 14 points. So it could be anywhere between about $2,000 and $5,000 that you would get just for what you're doing now with no changes whatsoever. So you guys are already doing a lot of stuff, and that's the state's way of rewarding you for doing the right thing when it comes to recycling and diversion. So that's just free money.
Christine, it's Colleen. I just want to, we are going to have to decide tonight whether or not we're going to increase the sticker prices for this upcoming year, because this won't be put into place for another 18 months anyway. I start selling the stickers in January, and there's a $16,000 gap between what it cost us and what we brought in stickers that the town ended up picking up.
Colleen, could we put that on our next meeting agenda so that residents are aware that we're going to be discussing the sticker fees? Because that'll still give us time, because that's what, December 6th?
Yeah, that's December 6th. We'll have to have the signs and everything made up, and that would be the last date we could do it, Christine.
Okay, all right. Why don't we plan on putting it on our next agenda so that the residents are aware that we're going to be talking about the possibility of increasing the price of the stickers.
Okay.
Okay, awesome. All right, so yeah, sounds good. John, I don't know, to your point, if this might be a good thing for the liaison, or whoever is the liaison to the Board of Health and Highway to participate in these discussions, you know, so that one of us are involved.
I think Mark's the liaison to the board, to the highway. And Board of Health, I don't know, is that Mark or you?
It might be me. I think I'm the Board of Health, but yeah, maybe Mark or I would be able
no problem. Sure.
To be involved with these discussions throughout the process. Okay.
That'd be great.
Awesome. All right. Very good. Well, thank you so much, Todd, and everyone for joining us to discuss this, this very important topic.
Yep. I really appreciate your time. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Todd. So we'll be seeing more of you.
Todd.
Yep. Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Good night.
Yeah, have a good one.
Okay, all right. So next item on our agenda is a discussion and vote regarding ARPA funds and a request from Silver Lake Regional School District for use of a portion of our funds to fund a HVAC project at the schools.
So we wanted to put this on. We have a meeting coming up later this week with Silver Lake. And it would be good going into that meeting for us to have an idea of the board's position on using some of our funds for this purpose. Matt Durkee had done some research, and it looked like our cost, and this is just an estimate, our share for this HVAC work at the middle and high schools would be a little over $187,000. That number could go up or down a little bit. As of right now, I suspect it'll go down somewhat because I believe that there may be an earmark in one of these different bills that was recently passed. I believe it was something in the way of around $210,000 for the Silver Lake HVAC work. But either way, this is just an estimate. I think it's kind of a no-brainer, honestly. We would be looking to use some of our county funds for this purpose, and that would not touch our $312,000 that's allotted specifically to us as a community, as a non-entitlement unit. As far as the county funds go, one of the estimates I saw for our allotment put it around to $580,000 that we might be getting. But that money's not fully guaranteed. The first 25% is, and then you need to go from there. So I don't know, I think for, call it 190,000 of over $800,000 in ARPA funds, I think that that would be a fantastic investment for those school buildings and would do our part to kind of help knock out a large, much needed project. But interested to hear what the board thinks.
Mark or John?
You know, John, maybe you could help us. Are you familiar with this? Because it sounds like the right thing to do, but are there any downsides to this?
Well, other than spending the money, that's clearly downside. But, well, I mean, so a couple of interesting parallels. Of course, we have full HVAC at the Dennett, and it's the only school in the district that has that. We did a lot of changes to the systems as far as how we had that, how much fresh air we're bringing in and all of this over, because of COVID when we opened the schools, a year plus ago. And because the whole system is integrated and because it's, you can keep the building seal, we actually really didn't use any more electricity over that time period, even though we were air conditioning more air. And so what you have now going on in the building is you have individual classrooms regulating their temperatures by opening windows. And that ends up costing you more money because the heat isn't just heating one classroom, it's heating a group of them. And depending on where the thermostats are, you blow open the envelope and therefore you have costs. So there could be some cost savings there. The other issue I think that we're sort of seeing, and regardless of how you believe on it, it's likely that we're going to have more extreme weather than less. That just seems to be the way we're going. And depending on when that weather occurs, if you have some really hot days, I mean, the school can be 90+ degrees in some of the classrooms. So, we're kind of moving to a place where we have an opportunity to fund what is a really large capital project with federal funds. And one that's probably going to be better for the buildings overall from any sort of mold or other type of, humidity. You will actually now have dehumidification going on within the building. So, I think it makes sense. And I don't think that Matt Durkee would have brought it up if he didn't think it was something that we could sort through.
Well, that's good. That makes me feel better, and I think it's a good deal.
So just to understand the purpose, essentially this is going to air condition a bunch of areas that have not had air conditioning in the past.
Correct. I mean, we forget that being in Plimpton because the whole building is air conditioned, but
yeah, outside
of the offices and perhaps one or two other areas, the building is not air conditioned. So, and it's sitting out there in the complete, I mean, the middle school has a few trees around it, but the high school is sitting there baking in the sun on a, 80-degree day. And it's fine if it's one day, but if you get to 3 or 4 days in June, that building gets pretty wild.
My son teaches at East Bridgewater, and they don't have air conditioning, and he hates it. I mean, it's really a problem.
So in essence, though, it's for those 10 days in June each year is more.
I mean, that's what we're seeing. I mean, so how many days do we have in September and even October where we're into the
Right.
70s and almost 80 degrees? Yeah. It doesn't have to be 90 to be hot, because the building accumulates the heat and doesn't get rid of it all at night.
Sure.
So the hope is that you would actually as I said, you might actually bring the utility costs down because you're controlling the entire environment.
Well, and it also helps too in terms of air purification, keeping the air moving. You can employ filtration units. And, you know, given that we are still dealing with, you know, lingering COVID cases and everything else, and there is the mask situation in the schools, it seems like it would make sense to pursue something that could improve upon the air quality.
And those are all great things. And I think I'm in favor of this, but just trying to get the perspective on it. Do we have any sense of what percentage of high schools, middle schools are air conditioned, say in Eastern Massachusetts or Southeastern Massachusetts? Do we have any sense of that?
I don't. My guess is the newest ones are. And,
right.
And that the ones that were built even 10 years ago probably aren't, because that was something else they tossed out.
I thought the worst areas.
Yeah. Yeah. And
so
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Christine.
No, that's all right. Because I don't know if the impression is that we're going to be air conditioning the entire buildings, and that's not the case.
No, it's just portions, and the spots where they have the large garage bay doors.
That price is just portions?
That price is just portions, so they're not going to do the gymnasiums.
Oh, well, yeah.
Schools, because it's just too large of an area.
It's all classrooms, I believe.
It's all classrooms.
Mm-hmm. And then the other thing that they pointed out is the spot where the like the automotive and the carpentry shop, where they have the big garage bays. They thought that would be kind of not the best use of funds at this point. They'd need to do a better study on that. So this help with all the classrooms, really the highly frequented areas of the school. And they seemed like they were careful in their assessment to only include those areas that made the most sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other important piece to point out here, ARPA funds, as far as the purposes in which you can use those funds, it's fairly limited in scope. It's not the same as like the CARES Act funding. It's in some ways it's more broad, but in other ways it's not. It's actually more specific. And so, you know, it's not like a town our size. There are some projects that would definitely be worthwhile and that we want to pursue. But as far as pursuing this project and offering our support, we would be funding 12.1% of the cost. Through our ARPA funds. It seems like a good use of a portion of our funds, and it'll still leave us with plenty left over to fulfill other project ideas that are within the scope of what those funds can be used for. It's not like we can just use them for whatever we want.
I think 12.1 is an old number though. So I think we should ask on that, because the percentage as of October 1st went down for Plimpton at Silver Lake.
I think that's what Matt based his estimate on, but I think our cost will go down a little, whether it's because of the percentage or because of the funding that they got added in to one of those infrastructure bills just recently. I think that might shave some off of our costs too.
Yeah, but we should make sure that we're using current assessment numbers, because it should be based on the assessment at the point in time that the project begins.
So do we know if either of the other two towns have voted yet?
I don't know that they've specifically voted. They both expressed I would consider kind of vehement support.
Mm-hmm.
And Christine and John Williamson and I were at that meeting, and we you know, played it a little closer to the vest and said, well, let us get the information first from the facilities director and see what the cost would be. We were also trying to iron out that evening what our county allotment would look like. And now we have a better understanding of that. So we just didn't want to commit to anything too soon. And also without coming back to the full Board of Selectmen, you know, and you voting tonight, it's more of a vote of support for this idea of the project. You're not required to take a specific vote relative to this at this point, but it would just be helpful to have a vote of whether or not you support the general kind of premise of this project, given the dollar estimate involved, so that when we meet with them on Thursday evening, we have some indication of what direction this is headed in. I don't want to see them waste their time, nor do I want it to waste our time if it's something that the board feels strongly about one way or another.
And I believe at least that was the plan last time, that both Halifax and Kingston are planning to post for that meeting as well, the boards of selectmen. So they were gonna bring a quorum to the meeting to have the discussion.
But we don't need to, because that's why we're doing it now.
Correct. And I think one of them might not be bringing a quorum any longer, but we're still in favor. So I'm not sure where that stands, but John is correct. They were super supportive of this idea. Like, they were looking for a commitment that last time.
Oh yeah.
That was what, October 28th, maybe. It was very end of October. And they were kind of, you know, we didn't want to be put on the spot and commit to anything without bringing it back to everybody and without having a solid understanding of what the cost would be and what our ARPA funds are. But after the information that they provided, reviewing that and knowing more about ARPA, it seems like a solid project, and like it would just be a responsible use of a portion of funds. And it would leave plenty left over for many other, I mean, we have other worthwhile projects that we would want to consider, and this would enable us to still consider those.
So we still don't have final numbers, but I think we're looking, or I'm looking for some direction that I can share at the meeting, whether or not we're going to support use of our ARPA funds for funding of this, the AC project at Silver Lake.
So I would say, based on the information we have tonight, that we should go forward.
Okay. But that we need final numbers so that we can vote on it at our next meeting.
Right.
Or final numbers and percentage of allocation and understanding what number comes from and everything, because we have a demographic shift. So we have less students at Silver Lake, but we have more students at Dennett. So the shared cost for Dennett will go up, or shared cost for Silver Lake will go down based on enrollment as of October 1st. Because we kicked that, the small class just went up to Silver Lake and was replaced by a class almost 3 times its size.
So once they have final numbers, we could bring it back to this board for a final vote and go over everything, you know, one more time. But I think this evening, if there was a vote of support for us pursuing this, it would just go a long way for Thursday evening, so that they're not wondering where we stand. And, you know, I think Christine and myself and John would be feel like we were on more firm footing, having the backing of the board.
So why don't we make that a vote subject to final numbers coming in?
Okay.
Okay. All right. So, John, are you making a motion that we will tentatively support this project contingent on final numbers, which would be based on our percentages and funding that has come from other sources?
Couldn't have said it better.
Okay.
I do.
All right. So I'll second the motion. Roll call vote. Mr. Trainer?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Mrs. Joy, yes. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So yeah, we just, it's something we wanted to discuss. It's a lot of money and pretty important that we as a board come to agreement on whether or not this is something we wanted to do. So thank you, John and Liz, for helping with that discussion. Okay, so next item on our agenda is vote of employment agreement with Steve Silva, the fire chief. So tonight, the Board of Selectmen in executive session voted to execute a contract with Chief Silva to serve as fire chief effective November 19th, 2021 to November 18th, 2024. So do we want to vote that again in open session to execute the contract with the fire chief, Steve Silva, effective November 19th, 2021 through November 18th, 2024?
I'll second that.
Okay, so we've got a second roll call vote. Mr. Trainer?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Mrs. Joy, yes. Okay. All right, next item is agreement with Right Technology Group for IT assessment and future planning.
So this was the item that I had forwarded to you. The fire chief and I met with Howard Wright from Right Technology Group. They had come highly recommended to us from a variety of different entities. And this agreement, what I forwarded to you, it's $3,500. And they'll do a complete IT assessment of where we're at, where the weaknesses are, what we might need to improve upon. And that would be not just for the townhouse, but for our whole network. So it would be like the fire station, the highway department building, all of that. And then they actually put together a plan for us, kind of a little roadmap. Here are all the steps you should take in order to get to where we want to be. And they'll offer some various alternatives as part of that. And then the big piece is that they'll put together cost estimates for us and basically help us build our future technology needs. Like, how do we build that into our budget? Is there anything that needs to go to town meeting in the way of articles? I think we're done as far as all kind of the more capital-like improvements. We have the fiber optic network, that's working well. But there are a lot of other pieces too. So kind of helping us with that, or what would be just absorbed as part of our normal technology budget. They would map all that out for us. And that contract, like I said, it's $3,500. I believe we can fund that through our utilities or computer line in our existing budget. And they understand that as far as any future work or implementing the plan, we would most likely need to wait until after town meeting to make sure that it's properly built into our budget. So this is not signing a long-term agreement with them or anything like that. It's strictly for this assessment and kind of helping us just have a plan going forward and what order the steps need to be taken in. So I was looking for a vote on that.
I can say we worked with Howard Wright at Old Colony Planning Council when COVID hit, and we had no remote capacity at all. And he put together a roadmap for us and helped us work out a lot of the kinks along the way. And he's a very straight shooter. He's not pie in the sky. He will make recommendations based on the town's need. So I think it would be in our best interest to get him on board so that we can start to look at addressing our IT needs.
Yeah, I don't know the company, but I do know that we had a discussion, this goes back a ways, with Steve Pello, the technology director for the Silver Lake District, who indicated that exactly what you're trying to do here, Liz, is exactly what we should be doing. And I think it's kind of short money in terms of the what we will get back. So I'm for it.
Any questions, Mark?
No, I'm enthusiastic for talented people to give us some direction so we're not sort of feeling our way in the dark. So yeah, very enthusiastic to do this.
Okay. All right. So I'll make a motion that we sign the agreement with Right Technology Group for the IT assessment and future planning.
John Williamson might have something.
I just had a real quick question. Liz, is part of the discussion or part of the assessment to also look not just at our hardware, but also balance that off from a cloud perspective as far as?
Yes, so that was the main purpose. When he came in to talk with us, it was finding out about going to the cloud. What happened to us during that last big storm that we had, well, our generator failed and wasn't functioning properly. But our server, the one that houses all the documents and everything, is so old. You know, we don't want to encounter any security issues. It also wasn't interfacing properly with the generator. So even when the generator restored power to the building, we didn't have town email. It's just not the most professional way to have things. And it's also, it was unfortunate because our fiber optic network, like, we never lost internet. That functioned the way it was supposed to function, but we still weren't getting the benefit of it because our town email was down and nobody could access anything. And we, you know, we kept having people go and like manually reset it. And that's the other thing too. Right now with our servers having physical ones, somebody has to go into one of the offices. The stuff is piled all on the ground and you have to like get down on the floor and manually like press buttons to reset things. It's not making the best use of our current technology with having the fiber and everything. So a big part of this is looking at going to the cloud. And he did say, and he can get more in depth with it as we go along, but he said, you know, you'd have the option of just taking email to the cloud, like an Office 365. You could do all the documents to the cloud or some combination. And he would calculate like what the cost would be based on like the records retention schedule and everything. It sounds like they do a lot of work, well, for private corporations, but also for quasi-public and public agencies. So like Old Colony had great luck with them, as Christine can attest to, I'm sure. Their executive director couldn't say enough good things about them. They brought them fully over to the cloud and Office 365. And I got to see that kind of in action when I went to visit Old Colony Planning Council, and it was impressive how they were able to interact. They had, you know, some people were virtual, some of us were in person for the meeting, and they had all the documents and the email, everything. It was an impressive setup. So that's a big part of it, is looking to get away from the physical servers in the building.
Excuse me, Liz, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Just to let you know, talking with the server, with just a little bit of the storm that we had on Saturday with the high winds that came through quickly.
Yeah, the had to be was down this weekend too.
It had to be reset on Monday morning.
Yeah. I think the other piece that's worth talking to them about is, like, for some of the other town boards, is, you know, digital storage of files and not just Word docs, but I'm thinking of like plans and things like that, where, you know, you can provide greater access not only to the board members, but to the public, to the extent that they're, you know, public plans that you're able to have up, and you can really, if you have the space to do it and you have the technology to do it, you can make the access to the information sort of so much easier and better, instead of having someone has to stop into the town clerk's office and look at the file. You know, there's other options that you can do there. And when someone leaves, all the stuff is still in the same place, because you have sort of a setup as to how stuff is stored and where it's stored, and then you can gain access to it, and you don't have missing files at that point. So I think that's great. So thank you for letting me comment.
Okay, so John made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Mr. Trainer?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Mrs. Joy, yes. Okay, all right. So we're going with Right Technology. All right, so next item on the agenda is to vote to endorse Cacades approved beer and wine license from ABCC. So Bree just got the information back from the ABCC that their license was approved. We had approved this early in the process, and I think it's just voting to endorse it now that it's been approved by ABCC.
I'll make a motion that we vote to approve this.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Roll call vote. Mr. Trainer.
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Mrs. Joy, yes. Okay, very good. All right. Warrants paid. Do you have that, Liz?
Bree has that.
Okay, perfect.
It was $42,000 to St. John Corp for the ramp and $329 for Verizon on a go. That hadn't been paid for a while, years.
Is that it, Bree?
And since we're, yep, that's it.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. All right, next item, appointments to the Plimpton Police Department. Sergeant, this is a permanent appointment, Matthew All, for an indefinite term, and full-time patrolman, Jeffrey Maligno, and that also is an indefinite term. So I made a motion for the 2 police department appointments. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, second. Roll call vote. Mr. Trainer.
Yes.
Mr. Russo.
Yes.
Mrs. Joy, yes. All right. So Liz, town administrator's report.
So the first item I was going to mention was the generator, but I think we've covered that. We are looking at potential funding sources and if there are grant opportunities to maybe fund replacing the generator. Also looking at potential for ARPA funds and some things like that. I also wanted to mention the old townhouse. I had been keeping John Williamson kind of apprised of the situation, but I think that we need to, sooner rather than later, as in like next few weeks, I think we need someone to go in there who knows what they're doing and really assess that building and find out if we need to do any sort of remediation or dehumidification. Our custodian mentioned kind of a mildew-like substance and situation on some of the books in there. In one of the rooms. And then there's another room that has some moisture issues involving the ceiling. And I think we're at a spot where it's getting kind of outside his comfort zone and sort of his normal scope of duties to be cleaning up some of that. And I think if we have a larger moisture issue, we need to figure out maybe short term, we can get someone in there this week and put up some dehumidification units. But I think longer term, we need a plan for that building so that it's preserved and everything. And I don't want to encroach too much. It's a town properties committee thing, which John and John are both aware of. But this is more of an acute situation with the moisture thing. It was just recently, it was brought to our attention a few days ago. So we'd like to just kind of with this board's, basically just your understanding, we're going to go ahead and get some prices to get somebody in there and make sure we don't have a larger issue and kind of take care of what we are experiencing right now with the moisture so that nothing in there is damaged and we don't encounter a more costly issue later on.
So we do have this as an agenda item for Wednesday, so we can talk about that at Town Properties. One thing I would note is I think it's good to get the assessment, but my assumption is that living in an old house myself with probably a similar basement beneath it, that the moisture issue is from the summer. If I don't run an air conditioner in one of my rooms that's over a crawl space, you get those little bits of mold will show up if you don't have the air conditioner on the humid days. With the winter here and with the drier air and the heat now working, since it actually has a gas hookup, that will give us a little bit of time. And so I think it's important that we get a good assessment of sort of the various options that are available. I think something that the knee-jerk reaction is to go buy some dehumidifiers and put them in there, but then someone has to go empty them, or you're going to be running a hose out the window and then you're dripping, so there's,
right.
Can you add something to the existing heating system that could serve, again, here we are back to air conditioning, right? That can do dehumidification of some sort, or do we need to add something that's more like a mini split type unit that would, provide some you don't have to climate control the entire building, but you have to get the moisture level down. in order to make it, you know, 80 and dry in the middle of the summer instead of 90 and humid. So I think it's absolutely the time to get a head start on that, because that's likely going to require some funds, and we need to know that ahead of town meeting.
Right. And as far as the assessment piece, assuming it's something that we can afford out of our regular operating budget, as far as town building maintenance, I'd like if we could maybe, just for the sake of moving things forward, if the board was okay with it, if I could communicate with John Williamson, and assuming that it seemed like a normal price point and like the assessment was going to be what we wanted it to be, that maybe we could move forward, at least for those 2 rooms. But I agree with what you said, John. It sounds like a larger issue, and, you know, something that will likely come up again and we'll have to address before town meeting. Just in the short term, our custodians seem kind of shook up by it, just the, you know, the situation at hand. So I think even if we could get that addressed, that would be a good thing.
Yeah, and I mean, this has been extreme. I mean, the building's pretty much been locked up for 1.5 years, and it's really been 2 summers that people haven't utilized the building. So that's you know, even having someone coming in and out, you know, a couple times a week is going to have a very different impact than when pretty much nobody's there. So,
right.
You know, but,
and it is going to see more use now. Council on Aging's doing some stuff in there. I think as things continue to open up and evolve, like you're saying, that'll make a huge difference.
The fitness class will be meeting there Wednesday morning, so it's starting to get into the rotation.
So Liz, do you need a vote from us?
I don't think I need a vote right now. Obviously, depending on the price, if it's something that seems questionable, if we could readily afford it out of our general operating budget for this sort of thing, I'll come back to the board, and I'll also on in for town properties committee purposes. But I wasn't thinking something large scale. I was thinking something short term to deal with the issue. And then I turned it over to town properties in terms of putting it on their radar, you know, for a longer term solution and fix. But if we could get somebody out there to just take a look at things and maybe clean up whatever substance is there safely and get us to a good spot where we can kind of reset the situation and then make decisions from a place of now having the heat functioning properly, more regular use of the building, and also now our custodian is going there on a regular basis, doing the cleaning again. Hopefully that gets us through to town meeting.
All right, that sounds great, Liz and John. Thank you very much. All right, anything in correspondence, Liz?
No.
Okay. All right.
Liz, were you going to bring up the hydrologist in correspondence?
Oh, I was. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
So if you recall, and this is more just to refresh everyone's memory, back before town meeting, Peter Newton was going to provide us with some hydrogeology type services and looking at the Rocky Harvest situation and kind of going through some of DEP's records and helping us analyze some of that data. And town meeting had approved the article, approved the funding for it. So we do have the agreement in hand from Peter Newton. It came in today, and we were planning to sign that so that he could get underway with his work. We already discussed this, like I said, prior to town meeting. The board discussed it at length when you were making recommendations on the articles, and then town meeting approved it. So, but just to keep the record straight and everything, we wanted to bring it up.
Great, thank you very much. That's great news.
So he's just about ready, I think maybe within a week or two of getting into DEP and taking a look at this, and ultimately we'll end up with a report. He'll also come in and meet with us as part of this, and not only let us know what he's finding in terms of reporting, but also some interpretation of what that water use is doing to our water supply in general. So really looking forward to what he can find for us and let us know.
Yeah, a lot of good information.
Yeah, so I'll plan to print that out, Mark, and I'll have it up on the cabinet for signature.
Okay, and in fact, I have a printed out copy, so with everyone's permission, I'll go ahead and sign that and get it back to him right away, just so it can keep moving forward. Yeah.
Great, thank you, Mark. You okay with that, John? John?
Sorry,
are you okay with Mark just signing the agreement with the hydrologist? Okay, perfect. All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mark, very much. Okay, next item is
Mark, would you get me a copy of that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, next item is the minutes from 11/1/21. Any changes or recommendations on those minutes?
I was okay with them.
Good minutes.
Okay, I thought so too, Bree. Excellent job. Okay, I'll make a motion. We approve the minutes from November 1st as written. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Mr. Trainer?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Mrs. Joy? Yes. Okay, dates to remember. Our next meeting is going to be on 12/6, and we will be talking about the possibility of raising the sticker pricing at the transfer station. So we'll have to be sure to really let people know so that they're able to participate in the discussion if they're interested. And then we're meeting on December 20th. And then next year, our first meeting will be on January 10th. So last item is going to be Selectmen's raves. Anybody have a rave they'd like to share?
I got a rave. I got a clean bill of health today so I can drink and drive.
Yay! At the same time, John?
Hopefully. I can also cross my legs if I don't get cramps. Just a couple of things on what's going on around town. We had first Saturday, I think I mentioned Cheryl Davis, the captain, came over, and good crowd, 17 people. Tomorrow's the Veterans Luncheon that the COA puts on. And we have a young police officer who attends who is a veteran. Next first Saturday, the police chief is committed to come to that. And both the fire chief and the police chief say they will have an individual there each month for those meetings. It's just a coffee and snacks and a chance to gossip and get together. So nice stuff going on.
Very nice. Mark, do you have a rave?
I do. So my rave is local government. And as we kind of watch a fair amount of dysfunction, if not downright paralysis on a national level with government, fun to have a meeting like this where we actually get things done, and somehow or other we're keeping the trains running. So I appreciate that.
Well, mine is along the same lines about, you know, the national scene and things happening throughout the US. It really brings the message home how important your local elections are and how important it is to have good people serving on your boards. And we are so lucky in this town to have so many excellent people. And I'm very thankful for all of them and the hard work they do for all of our residents. So thank you for everyone who's serving, because it can be a thankless job, but it is also extremely rewarding. All right, so that's all we've got tonight. So I'll make a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Raise your hand, say aye. No roll call vote. All right, good night, everyone.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye-bye.